the Oscars, the most prestigious award in film. For nearly a century, they've represented the very best of Hollywood. But the story of how they began is not what most people think. Because the Academy Awards weren't created purely to celebrate movies. Their origins are tied to a much bigger conflict inside the film industry. So today we're going to deconstruct the Oscar. We're going to trace its journey all the way from its beginnings as a crafty anti-union strategy back in 1927, right up to its modern form. We're going to dig into how this whole thing works, how that iconic statuette is actually made, and why, after almost 100 years of glitz, scandal, and massive change, it still manages to keep us all watching. All right, let's just dive right in. To really get the Oscar, you have to go back to its birth in 1927. And, it wasn't born out of some pure, noble love for the art of filmmaking. Not at all. It was actually a cold, calculated business move by one of the most powerful guys in Hollywood, the head of MGM, Louis B. Mayer. See, back in the late 20s, behind all that Hollywood glamour, a war was brewing. Unions for writers, directors, and all the technicians were getting stronger, and they were starting to demand better pay, better hours, a little bit of creative say. And for a studio boss like Mayer, who ran his studio like a kingdom, this was a huge, huge threat. I mean, this quote really says it all, doesn't it? It perfectly captures his mindset. Mayer's big idea was to create this exclusive members-only club, the Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences. Now, on the surface, its mission was all about, advancing the arts. But the real reason, the one behind closed doors, was to handle labor disputes and contract talks internally. Basically, to cut the unions off at the knees. And the awards, what would become the Oscars, they were the perfect tool. The velvet glove on an iron fist. It was a brilliant way to manage all these creative egos, have them compete against each other for a shiny trophy, and keep them loyal to the studios instead of their unions. And that tension, art versus business, celebration versus control, it's been baked into the Oscars' DNA from day one. Okay, so now we get why it was created. But what did that first ceremony actually look like? Well, the very first awards night, on May 16, 1929, was a complete different world from the massive global TV event we see now. I mean, forget the hours-long red carpet, forget all the commentary. You gotta picture something way more low-key, almost like a corporate dinner party. What's so wild here is just how different it all was. It was a private dinner at the Hollywood Roosevelt Hotel with just 270 guests. A ticket was $5. And the whole awards part of the evening in 15 minutes. Can you even imagine? But the biggest difference, the thing that really tells you what it was all about back then, there was absolutely zero suspense. The winners, including the very first Best Picture, a movie called Wings, had already been announced to the newspapers 3 months earlier. This wasn't a show for you and me, it was for the industry to give itself a nice pat on the back and keep that exclusive club feeling strong. So, from that quiet little dinner, let's zoom in on the award itself. I mean, that little golden guy is probably one of the most famous statues on the entire planet. It's a beautiful piece of Art Deco design, for sure. But its iconic name, Oscar, it didn't come out of some fancy marketing. Nope, the story is way more down to earth. Almost an accident, really. It's all thanks to a librarian, a casual comment, and a nickname that just stuck. And the design is just packed with all this cool symbolism. If you look closely, it's a knight holding a sword standing on a reel of film. And check out the base. See those 5 spokes on the film reel? They're not just for looks. Each one represents one of the original 5 branches of the Academy: actors, directors, producers, technicians, and writers. It's this really powerful symbol that making a movie isn't just one person's job, it's this huge team effort. And that's a big part of why the award is so respected. It's not just for one person, it's an honor for the entire craft. The award has its famous look, it has its famous name, but it was still missing the most important ingredient, the one thing we all wait for, that moment, right? That heart-stopping pause before the name is read. That didn't exist yet. It literally had to be invented. And it was born out of a total disaster, a huge spoiler that almost destroyed the award's reputation for good. Okay, so here's what was happening. In the early days, the Academy would give newspapers the list of winners ahead of time under a strict embargo so they could get their morning editions ready. It was kind of a gentleman's agreement. But in 1940, the Los Angeles Times just broke the rules. They printed the entire list of winners in their evening paper, which came out while people were literally still showing up for the ceremony. Can you imagine the chaos? You're a nominee. You're all dressed up. You step out of your car and a newsboy on the corner is yelling out that you already lost. The whole magic of the night was just gone. The Academy knew right then and there this could never, ever happen again. So, the very next year in 1941, they came up with a solution that was as simple as it was brilliant: the sealed envelope. From that point on, an accounting firm would tally the votes in secret, and nobody would know the results until that envelope was opened live on stage. And just like that, with one simple fix, the iconic phrase, "and the Oscar goes to," was born. And that was the moment everything changed. That's when the ceremony went from being a private industry dinner to a real public spectacle, built entirely on pure nail-biting suspense. So, just as the Oscars hitting its stride as this big dramatic show, the whole world gets plunged into World War II. And the statuette itself, this shiny symbol of Hollywood fantasy, it wasn't safe from the tough realities of the real world. In fact, it was about to go through a pretty dramatic change that showed just how serious things were for everyone. For 3 straight years, from 1943 to 1945, they stopped making the famous golden statue. There was a huge metal shortage across the country, and every single ounce of bronze and brass was needed for the war effort, for things like bullets, ships, and planes. A heavy gold-plated trophy was a luxury the nation just couldn't afford. It was a really powerful message that everyone, even glamorous Hollywood, was doing their part and making sacrifices. But here's the really interesting part. They didn't cancel the show. The awards went on, but instead of the real deal, for those 3 years, winners were handed these statuettes made out of painted plaster. From far away, they looked okay, but they were super light, really fragile, a constant physical reminder of the war that was going on. But this story has a really great ending. After the war was over, every single person who had won a plaster Oscar was invited to come back to the Academy and trade it in for the real thing, the heavy, permanent gold-plated award. The awards, just like the world, were being made whole again. It's just a powerful story about resilience, a reminder that even when things are at their darkest, we still make room for art. And with the war over and the plaster trophies traded for gold, the ceremony was ready for a new golden age. So, let's peel back those layers and take a look at the very engineering of the spectacle. You could almost call it the code running underneath all that glamour. Because, before any actor even thinks about stepping onto that stage to grab their Oscar, there's another kind of genius that's been hard at work, sometimes for years. And this is something the Academy Awards has always gotten, like a fundamental truth. Making movies isn't just one thing. It's a mix, a really delicate but powerful fusion of creative vision and, well, pure technological muscle. I mean, think about it. All the way back in 1931, just 4 years after they started this whole thing, the Academy set up a special kind of award. And these awards, they weren't for the movie star. Nope, they were for the innovators, the people in the labs and the workshops. We're talking about the engineers, the chemists, the code wizards, the real unsung heroes. Their breakthroughs don't just make movies look a little better, they completely redefine what's even possible to show on screen. So this timeline here, it's like a map of how the movie dreamscape itself evolved. Back in the 30s, you get Technicolor. And it wasn't just about adding color. It added a whole new layer of emotion. It was the difference between just watching a story and feeling like you were in it. Suddenly, the world wasn't black and white anymore. It was vibrant, alive, like real life. Okay, now jump forward to the 90s. CGI just blows the doors off everything. The old rules of the physical world? Gone. You want dinosaurs walking the earth again? Done. Want to build entire planets from scratch? No problem. It completely changed the scale of what a filmmaker could even imagine. And this stuff never stops. It just gets more and more specialized. Like in 2025, they give an award for a dermal burn gel, a compound that lets a stunt person literally be set on fire, but safely. It's this constant, incredible push for more realism, for bigger spectacle, making the illusion even more convincing. And that quote just nails it, doesn't it? It's the core idea. The Oscars are saying, hey, every single beautiful shot, every jaw-dropping special effect, that exists because of some serious scientific work. Art and science aren't two separate things here. They're totally intertwined. Okay, so the tech to make the movies was evolving like crazy. But what about the tech to share them with the world? That was evolving right alongside it. You see, the story of the Oscars is also the story of how it was broadcast. It's a signal that started as this tiny little whisper in one city and over 100 years grew into a massive global roar. Just try to picture this. It's 1930, the second ever Oscars. It's not this huge visual thing for the whole world. It's just sound, an audio event for one city with voices crackling over the radio. Then, bam! 1953, the signal takes this quantum leap. Television. All of a sudden, the glamour, the gowns, the golden statues, they're being beamed right into people's living rooms. It became this national ritual, something everyone had to watch. And now, we're right on the edge of the next big jump. By 2029, the whole ceremony is moving exclusively to YouTube. Now, this isn't just like changing the channel. It's a massive strategic move to stay relevant, to become this borderless, on-demand, truly global digital event. And that transition, it changes everything. The whole experience flips from what it used to be. You know, the national event where the family huddled around one TV just passively watching. Now it's become a global conversation. The audience is everywhere, on a million different screens, but they're all connected. People aren't just viewers anymore. They're part of the show. They're commentators, critics, meme makers, all shaping the story in real time across this huge, chaotic digital web. So, okay, we've got the tech to build entire worlds from scratch, and we've got a global audience hanging on every moment. But what does the Academy itself think is great? What's the yardstick for perfection in movies? Well, over the years, they've come up with a very specific and unbelievably hard-to-achieve definition for the absolute peak of filmmaking. All right, in almost 100 years of the Oscars, out of tens of thousands of movies that have been made and thousands that have been nominated, there's one number, just one, and it has this almost mythical power to it: 3. This is what they call the Big Five. And it's not just about winning Best Picture. It's about a complete and total sweep. It's getting a perfect score from your peers. I mean, you've got the core idea in the screenplay, the leader's vision in the director, the human heart of the story in the actor and actress, and then the perfect combination of it all in the Best Picture. It means one movie just nailed every single core element of storytelling. It's basically the grand slam of cinema. And let me tell you, this is the most exclusive club in all of Hollywood. First up, you have the rom-com that basically wrote the rules for the genre. It happened one night, way back in 1934. And then, nothing. For an unbelievable 41 years, not a single film could do it again. An entire generation of movies came and went. Then, in 1975, the raw, intense drama of One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest finally broke the streak. And after that, the chilling thriller that still gives people nightmares, The Silence of the Lambs in 1991. The huge gaps between these wins, it just shows you how statistically improbable this really is. It's like a cosmic alignment in the movie world that happens maybe once in a generation. Now, outside of the Big Five, there are other legends, other records that seem almost unbreakable. You look at someone like Walt Disney, a staggering 22 wins and 59 nominations. The guy wasn't just a filmmaker, he was an industrialist of the imagination. Or an actress like Katharine Hepburn, who was at the absolute peak of her craft. Not once, not twice, but 4 separate times. Just incredible, enduring talent. And then you have the films that did a different kind of sweep. The epic scale of Ben-Hur, the worldwide phenomenon that was Titanic, and the fantasy masterpiece, The Return of the King. Each of them hauled in an insane 11 Oscars. That's the record. These are the giants. They're the benchmarks that everyone else is measured against. But here's where things get really interesting today. That definition of excellence, and even more importantly, where that excellence comes from, is going through its biggest shakeup ever. For most of its history, the Academy's gaze was pretty much fixed on Hollywood, on the English-speaking, but now that worldview is expanding, and fast. For decades, you have to understand, American movies have been one of the country's most powerful exports, but not in the way you might think. It's what experts call soft power. As this quote from the Stimson Center points out, American films have been amazing at, well, embedding American values and ideas into the global imagination. And for a long, long time, the Oscars were the biggest night for that project. The night Hollywood celebrated itself and the whole world was invited to watch. And get this, for 92 years, there was this invisible wall, but it was a very real one, built around the Best Picture award. Sure, amazing international films would get nominated, and many won in their own category, but the biggest prize of the night, the ultimate seal of approval, that was always reserved for English-language films. It was an unspoken rule, but it was the rule. And then, 2020. And that wall didn't just get a crack in it, it came crashing down. Bong Joon-ho's incredible South Korean film Parasite, it didn't just win Best International Film. It won Best Director, it won Best Original Screenplay, and then, in a moment that just sent a shockwave through the entire industry, it won Best Picture. It was a quake, a massive signal that the Academy's idea of the best was no longer tied to one language or one country. It was a recognition that true cinematic genius speaks a universal language. And the thing is, the Parasite win wasn't a fluke. It wasn't a one-off. It was the beginning of a whole new chapter, one that's more international itself, one that's actively looking outside its old borders, trying to stay relevant by finally embracing the amazing, diverse movies being made all over the world. So after this whole journey, where do we land? When we put all the pieces together, the tech, the global broadcast, the changing definition of excellence, what is the Oscar phenomenon, really? It's a pretty wild evolution, almost accidental when you think about it. The Academy started out with a super practical, you might even say cynical, purpose. It was a strategy by the big studio heads back in 1927 to handle labor disputes and basically keep unions at bay. And from that simple tactic, it has morphed into something its founders could never, ever have dreamed of. A global standard for what makes a great film, broadcast instantly to billions of people. And that's its real power today. First, a single win can validate an entire career, turning an artist into a legend in one night. Second, it completely changes the money game for a film. The Oscar bump can add millions to its value. And third, and maybe this is the most important one, it eternalizes stories. It takes a movie out of the buzz of its moment and puts it into the history books, making sure it gets watched and talked about for years, for generations. It's more than just a trophy. It's a machine for making history. You know, through all these changes in tech and culture, the Oscars have created this long history of just unforgettable moments. 100 years of drama, shock, and pure inspiration that's now part of our shared memory. So I want to ask you, what's the moment that sticks with you? The one that, for you, defines what this whole spectacle, this piece of history, is all about. If you found this explainer helpful, hit like and subscribe to the channel. Thanks for watching. Until next time.